We have uncovered a remarkable planet, a world of extreme weather, alien landscapes, and bizarre phenomena. It's the most complex system we know of in the universe. That planet is Earth, and we are only beginning to unlock its secrets. On planet Earth, there is an invisible force governing everything.
It gave me enough energy to be able to go through all the loops and twists and turns of this amazing track.
It's called gravity, a phenomenon that permeates the planet, wielding secret power over the continents and oceans, plants and people. But in a remote part of North America, some of it has turned up missing, and it could be gone forever.
If you suddenly turn off gravity, we would be flung into outer space.
Without gravity, there would be no you, and there would be no me.
The case of the missing gravity on Secrets of the Earth. On this planet called Earth, something strange is happening. Gravity, a fundamental force of nature, is actually missing in some places. In fact, Canada's Hudson Bay has lost a lot of gravity, more than almost anywhere else on the planet. It is a mystery tied to one of the most important forces in the cosmos.
Gravity is the glue that holds the universe together. Gravity is assisting us in all of the actions and things that we do as human beings. Without gravity, there would be no galaxies, there would be no stars, there would be no planets, there would be no you and no me.
For over a half-century, scientists on Earth have been on a mission to solve the case of the missing gravity and what secrets it might reveal about the planet. It is a quest that has taken them to one of the most remote outposts along the Hudson Bay, Churchill, Manitoba. No roads lead here. The only way in is by train or small aircraft. The subarctic community of only 600 people is the polar bear capital of the world. Tourists flock here in the summer and fall, when the massive white beasts move inland off the melted ice. But for much of the year, Churchill is a desolate town, where winter temperatures can dip to minus 30 degrees Fahrenheit. And the modes of transportation are snowmobile and dog sled.
We're in Churchill, in northern Canada, one of the world's largest gravity lows. The missing gravity in the Hudson Bay region is so large that you can observe it from space.
Understanding what caused this bizarre abnormality in the Hudson Bay requires decoding the secrets of gravity on Earth and in the universe. Gravity is an attractive force that causes any two objects with mass to be pulled toward each other.
This force is stronger for more massive objects, and it's stronger the closer you are to that object, and that's the way gravity works.
So really big things, like planet Earth, have lots of gravity that pulls everything towards their center.
The rocks forming this cliff here attract me gravitationally, but I don't feel an attraction toward them. Instead, I'm firmly planted on Earth here because Earth's mass pulling me down is so much greater than the mass of those rocks pulling me to the side.
The Earth, like all planets, was formed when gravity pulled together bits of rock, dust, and gas over millions of years, gradually forming a sphere. Gravity holds the Earth together and keeps it orbiting around the sun.
To understand how important gravity is, let's turn it off. If you suddenly turn off gravity, we would be flung into outer space at 1,000 miles per hour.
The power of gravity isn't just reserved for shaping the universe. Humans sometimes harness it for a thrill.
Here I am on the accelerator ride at Knott's Berry Farm in Southern California. And this incredible roller coaster is going to show us the amazing power of gravity. Here I go. Whoa! Oh, man! Ah! And now gravity is going to take me down. Whoa!
And the rest of the ride is powered by nothing but gravity.
Oh, man. So I got accelerated to 80 miles an hour and then launched nearly vertically. So I was doing work against gravity, got to the top of the track, and then gravity brought me down. Gravity gave me enough energy to be able to go through all the loops and twists and turns of this amazing track.
Since the mass of an object determines how much gravity it has, things weigh more on massive planets. On gigantic Jupiter, a 180-pound human would weigh about 470 pounds. But on the surface of the Earth's moon, the same human would shed a lot of weight.
The moon's gravitational attraction is less than that of Earth. It's about 6 times less. So a given person who weighs, say, 180 pounds on Earth would only weigh 30 pounds on the moon. It's the same amount of mass. That person is still the same person, but he or she is being pulled down on the moon only 1/6 as much as on Earth.
Back on Earth, the effect the mass of an object has on gravity would expose an ancient secret in the Hudson Bay region of Canada. In the 1960s, scientists began taking the first global measurements of the Earth's gravity field using simple ground instruments.
This is a relative gravity meter. Essentially, it measures the differences between gravity at a spot where it's known and where you want to measure. So these meters are typically placed wherever you want to observe gravity. That could be out on the ice, that could be on rock. For the early measurements in the Hudson Bay, the gravity meter was lowered to the bottom of Hudson Bay.
These gravity meters picked up an anomaly, a peculiar change in gravity. This change was due to a layer of rock from the Earth's crust that was missing. It was about as thick as the length of 3 football fields placed end zone to end zone. Scientists also noticed strange land features surrounding the Hudson Bay. These physical signs pointed to a possible culprit, a climate catastrophe of epic proportions. The disappearance of gravity in the Hudson Bay region of Canada has troubled scientists for decades. They are on a hunt to find out what happened to it and what this might mean. Since the late 1960s, scientists had noticed weird geological features along the shoreline of the bay. The bedrock had deep gouges and grooves that looked like they'd been made by some colossal force. A plausible theory about the missing gravity surfaced. 20,000 years ago, Earth was suffering through its last ice age. The buildup of snow and ice created the Laurentide ice sheet, a 2-mile-thick glacier that spanned most of present-day Canada.
It depressed the crust of the Earth and made it sort of stretch outward and squeeze out the sides, meaning there was less there. Gravity isn't as strong there because some of the rock was squeezed out.
The continent-sized glacier appeared to be the smoking gun. But in the 1990s, new GPS surface instruments picked up something else. After the megaglacier melted, the Earth's surface began to slowly rebound. The phenomenon is known as post-glacial rebound. But the amount of gravity recovering from the last ice age only added up to about 1/3 of the total amount missing. So there has to be something else, something much bigger going on in the Hudson Bay to have caused this gravity depletion. And it's not the only place where gravity is low. In space, the gravitational field is extremely small. That's because gravity becomes weaker the farther apart one object is from another object. In this microgravity environment, astronauts appear to be floating inside a spacecraft, but they're actually in a constant state of freefall or weightlessness. Astronauts don't drop to the floor because the floor is also falling.
So you have the optical illusion that there's no gravity in your space capsule, but actually there's plenty of gravity. You're just falling at the same rate as the capsule. Therefore, weightlessness is an optical illusion created by the fact that gravity pulls objects at the same rate.
In low gravity space, the human body experiences all sorts of side effects. An astronaut experiences muscle atrophy and loses 1% of bone mass per month.
Muscle mass starts changing, our bones start deteriorating. So consequently, one of the things that astronauts hate the most is that they have to work out 2 and 3 hours a day to try and keep that body mass.
With less gravity, moisture from the bloodstream accumulates in the spinal discs, which can lengthen the spine almost 2 inches. In fact, spacesuits are sewn larger to accommodate the stretch.
Now, the interesting aspect about that, too, is when we're in space, all the fluids move up around your head and your brain and your face area. And one of the things that the astronauts complain about is their faces get rounder and fatter, and you can't see any facial gestures.
While the weak gravity field in space has a profound effect on humans, the gravity on Earth influences everything, big and small. The case of the missing gravity near Churchill along the Hudson Bay of Canada reminds us how central this force is to life on planet Earth. It sets invisible limits on even the tallest things in the natural world.
I'm standing here among a bunch of California redwoods. And some redwoods can be the tallest trees in the world, almost 400 feet high. Now, they can't get much taller than that, and that's because the downward force of gravity caused by the Earth makes it hard for water to go up toward the tops of the trees.
Even mountains have a secret height limit set by gravity.
Mountains on Earth can't become arbitrarily high because eventually Earth's gravity is going to be pulling on them so much that they'll sink in Earth's crust.
On Earth, our tallest mountain, Everest, reaches 5.5 miles high. On Mars, where gravity is roughly 1/3 less powerful, the largest mountain, Olympus Mons, rises 3 times higher into the sky. All creatures on Earth have evolved to deal with Earth's particular gravitational pull.
Look behind me. That animal right there weighs about 3.5 tons. So gravity affects them, but look at their legs. They're like tree trunks. They support all of this massive weight. They don't grow much larger than that because they need to be able to move, they need to be able to forage and find food.
In fact, No land animal on Earth, even a dinosaur, has ever grown larger than 100 tons. But underwater, whales can grow to almost twice that weight.
Whales in the ocean can use buoyancy of the water to support themselves. They've gotten around the conundrum of gravity.
Around the globe, animals have been shaped by Earth's gravity. In the Hudson Bay, could they provide a clue to what made the gravity disappear? During the years scientists have been studying this gravity anomaly, they've seen the weather change drastically. Global warming now keeps the bay ice free for longer periods, shortening the polar bear's season to hunt for food and threatening its very existence. It turns out that the melting of sea ice also has the power to change the planet's gravitational field. March 17, 2002. NASA and the German Space Agency launched GRACE, the Gravity Recovery and Climate Experiment. The satellites take the most precise measurements of the Earth's gravity field that will provide crucial information about any changes in the planet's oceans, geology, and climate.
GRACE is a dual satellite system made up of 2 satellites in the same polar orbit. One satellite is 140 miles behind the other satellite, and they're constantly measuring the distance between them using a very precise radar system. Suppose that GRACE flies over a very heavy object like a mountain, represented by this rock. The gravity of that mountain will pull the 2 GRACE satellites towards it, which will decrease the distance between the satellites. Conversely, if GRACE flies over a region like Hudson Bay, where gravity is weaker, that will result in an increase of the distance between the 2 satellites.
For 5 years, GRACE orbits the Earth 15 times a day at an altitude of over 300 miles. As the satellites monitor variations of mass within the Earth, they uncover a long-held secret about the missing gravity in the Hudson Bay. Something that has been welling deep inside the planet for hundreds of millions of years. In the Hudson Bay of northern Canada, the case of the missing gravity has been an unsolved scientific mystery for over half a century. Scientists knew that an ancient ice sheet had deformed the rock in the Hudson Bay, leading to some of the gravity loss. But that couldn't account for most of the missing gravity. Then, in 2007, scientists got a new view from space. The GRACE satellites generated the most detailed maps ever made of Earth's gravitational field and revealed something astonishing. The missing gravity in the Hudson Bay of Canada was caused not just by the cold of the Ice Age, but also by searing heat from the depths of the Earth. Hundreds of miles beneath Earth's surface, 7,000-degree molten rock continuously rises and falls in a process called mantle convection.
We can see convection in a pot of water boiling on a stove. As it's heated, it expands and becomes less dense, so it rises. When it gets to the top, it cools off, contracts, and becomes more dense, so it sinks. This convective process is the same in the mantle, except it's a lot slower.
Mantle convection on Earth occurs in cycles. In many places, it's rising or upwelling. But under the Hudson Bay, the flowing rock in the mantle is sinking or downwelling.
In Hudson Bay, it just so happens that in that particular spot, the mantle is going down because it's more dense. This is dragging every feature of the Earth with it downward, which ends up reducing gravity. Mantle convection is essentially permanent. There is effectively going to be no end to this on a human timescale.
After over 60 years, The case of the missing gravity in the Hudson Bay region of Canada has finally been solved. Scientists now have a deeper understanding of how changes in the gravity field can reveal hidden secrets about the planet, above and below its surface. The quest has even led to the discovery of other gravity anomalies that expose threats to the global population.
The 2005 Amazon drought left a gravity anomaly because there wasn't as much water as expected on the ground. We also see that gravity is decreasing over most of the ice sheets on the planet. And this is because those ice sheets are melting and sliding into the ocean, primarily because of the CO2 that we're dumping into the atmosphere.
The journey to unravel this secret of the Earth shows how the elusive force of gravity has left its mark on mountains and continents, trees and animals. It's an essential part of the entire universe and something we could not live without.